or sit or stand or be in whatever position you want to be. And recall some of the movements that we've been doing, hooking the big toe. Just bring to mind anything over the last few days that you've been doing. And there's all sorts of different ways of bringing things to mind. So you could try to bring it to mind sequentially. Okay, so this is what we did on Tuesday, and this is what we did on Monday, and then Tuesday, and this is what we did yesterday. Or, so that's one way. Or another way was you just remember things as they pop up. Oh yeah, I remember a little bit of that. Oh yeah. And then after that, there was a little bit of this, and then there was a little bit of that. So everything pops up in no order, what particular, just what you remember. And then you can recall things by how much you like them and dislike them. Oh yeah, I remember doing something that I really, really liked. I really enjoyed that. And then you go, oh yeah, and there's that thing that was bloody awful. I hated that. Nevertheless, you remember both the good thing and the bad. And then there's a way of recalling that just continues to live kind of in your thinking, kind of a mental recalling, a bit of an abstraction. And then there's a kind of recalling that actually you start to experience it in your body. And the two can happen together, or sometimes they happen separately. So notice, what's your way? Maybe you have a way of recalling that I haven't described. So you have your own particular way of recalling. I don't see anybody dashing off with their notebooks, so nobody uses that. Good. Please come up to sit. Great, and lie on your back again. And in a moment you're going to come up to sit again, but have in the foreground of your attention this idea of organizing yourself, moving yourself, living through the movement in such a way that you're looking how to generate this state of well-being, flourishing, eudaimonia. That is in the foreground. It's like the long destination road, and everything else is in the background. And if you have that attitude in mind, how will you come up differently? How will you roll to sit differently? What effect does it have? Try it. Notice the change in speed in probably 75% of you. The speed changed. Sit with your legs bent. In a way that you can hook your right big toe. Nice question. Hook your right big toe. And lift the foot from the floor, put it down. Just that. Great. Let the foot on the floor. Hook the left big toe with the left index finger. And lift the foot from the floor and put it down. You go onto the back of your pelvis so nicely now. That's good. Great. Now let go of your left big toe with your left index finger and hook the big toe with your right index finger. The left big toe with your right index finger. And now lift and lower the foot. Great. And as you lift your leg, just lengthen, unbend the leg a little bit, and then bend it, put it down. Just that. And now somewhere in the back of your mind, start to form the intention of bringing that knee, that left knee, to the outside of the right elbow, the right arm. Ah, eudaimonia. Yeah. Now, it's possible to do this and just perform the movement, and it's just a movement. Or it's possible to explore the movement with this notion of generating a state in yourself that you actually go, yeah, I feel better doing this. Now, no one can do that except you. Because all I can throw at you at this moment is words. That's all I can do. But not all the words in China can make you create that state. Now, place your left heel on the floor, somewhere in front of you. And you'll need to find out how bent or unbent to have your leg. But place the left heel on the floor, keep the toe hooked. Yeah, you can hold a sock. You can hold a sock. You can hold a sock.
Which arm?
Right. Same arm. Yep. Now the heel's on the floor. Now keep the heel where it is on the floor, and now take the arm and put it to the outside of the left leg. That's it. So now instead of moving the leg under the arm, now you're moving the arm over the leg. No. Just remain sitting. That's it. And start to pay attention. What can you do with the chest that makes this, first of all, more possible? Second of all, a little bit easier. Third, more elegant. Fourth, pleasurable. And you know what fifth is? Eudaimonia. Or Feldenkrais would call it aesthetic appreciation of yourself. You feel beautiful doing it. That's the Western idea of aesthetics, yes? It's beautiful. It feels beautiful to do. And now notice the kinds of choices that you're making with your neck and your head. Have you stiffened your neck? What would happen if you just let the head hang a little bit to the left as you took the arm over the top? That's it. Does that change something in the way your trunk moves and where you're ready to move your pelvis? Nice, nice. And notice your choice about where you've put your left hand. Are you leaning on it? Sometimes just one little element where you've put the hand is enough to make a difference between struggling and not struggling. Now, some of you might like the feeling of struggle. I don't know. You perverse individuals. No, that's my opinion. Some people really enjoy the feeling of struggle. They feel like, when I'm struggling, I feel like I'm doing something. Yes, it's good. I like it. They do. They honestly do. Now, let yourself lift the foot off the floor and take the knee underneath the arm to the other side and notice if that's a little bit different. Yeah. It's only a movement, don't worry. It's only a movement. Great. Let that rest a little bit. So when I was teaching recently in Perth, one of my colleagues who was teaching with me, she said, you know, I really don't know what this word aesthetics means. Damn, it's another, I don't know, is it Latin, is it Greek? Another one of these old words. Anyway, it just means from the senses, your sensory appreciation of something. And then when we found out the meaning of the word, it all made sense. It's like an aesthetic appreciation, an internally felt sense that what you were doing was not only valid, but beautiful, nice, you approved of it, and it's all based on a feeling, not intellectual. Interesting. An interesting direction to move in. Please, have in the foreground this idea, this attitude of coming up to sit in a way that generates or aims you towards a sense of well-being. You come up to sit like that, with that in the foreground of your attention. Yeah, you could spend a whole ATM lesson just doing that and it wouldn't be a wasted lesson. Hook your right big toe with your left index finger and gently, gently, gently lift your foot from the floor and start to take the knee to the outside of the left arm. Now, I have a really silly question to ask you, and it is a silly question. Is your self-worth dependent on you getting your knee to the outside of your elbow? I told you it was a silly question. Yeah. Some people, not in this room, by the way, I think you're all doing beautifully. Some people, you'll find the way they do this movement, it's like it is. If I don't get this, I'm no good. You'll hear Feldenkrais talk about this so often. Now, put the heel on the floor, and now play around with the idea of taking the arm over the knee. Now, you can bring the heel closer, take it further away. In other words, bend the leg to the extent that makes it more possible. And that lesson that Lisa taught last night, you know, about moving over the buttocks, did you feel how a lot of you moved over the buttocks after a while? So, does that apply here? And that lesson last night was such a pretzel. I call them pretzel lessons. Yes, you feel like a pretzel doing them. Yeah? So much movement in the chest. Some of you found so much movement in the chest. If you could remember some of that movement here, would it make a difference? Great. And now return to lifting the foot and taking the elbow underneath. Sorry, lifting the foot and taking the knee underneath. That's more accurate. Or it could be an act of mutual cooperation. Elbow goes, okay, I'll go over. Knee goes, okay, I'll go under. And why does that have to be an American accent? I don't know. Okay, let that be rest, please. So remember, eudaimonia is this idea that you bring things from yourself and into the world. It's self-generating. It's not like the world isn't there to support you. I mean, gravity is there to support you. The floor is there to support you. Other individuals are there to support you. But most of it, you bring from your internal resources out there. But all of us, and this is where Ray's question was really good, but all of us need to find out about what resources we have. And of course, that's where teachers come in, parents, friends, colleagues. Yeah. We find out about what we can bring from the inside, actually what's inside us that we can bring out. So we're not necessarily islands in all of this. Please come up to all fours so that you're standing on your arms, standing on your hands, and standing on your knees. Have the knees apart slightly and rest the right foot into the sole of the left foot. So the right foot is resting onto the sole of the left. And now start to move your pelvis backwards as if you wanted to sit on your heels. And then come back. Adjust your hands as you need to. Great. And now change over the feet. Have the other foot underneath, have the other foot on top, and continue. And notice, what's the script? What are you attending to? Do you still have in the foreground of attention this idea of generating a state where you're looking to create a sense of well-being? Now bring the pelvis so that it's high, at its highest point. And start to move the pelvis left and right. If it happens that you feel the movement's restricted and it's not easy to go left and right with your pelvis, bring your knees a little closer together. So if it's too stable, it becomes difficult to move the pelvis. Now, continue to move your pelvis left and right. And notice, when your pelvis goes to the left, where does your head go? Does it also go to the left? Does it stay in the middle? Or does it go to the right? So please, try out each of those possibilities. Shift your pelvis to the left, take your head to the left. The arms stay straight. Now you make me have to make constraints. The arms stay straight. No, you're bending your arm. Now try the second possibility. Move your pelvis left and right, keep your head in the middle. Now try the third possibility, which is every time you take your pelvis to the left, take your head to the right. Now chances are, one of these combinations is your pattern. One of them you feel like, yeah, I know how to do this one. Switch the feet over, have the other foot on top. And now explore those three possibilities with taking your pelvis to the right. So you're still taking your pelvis left and right, still left and right, but now you're focusing on the right side shift. As you take your pelvis to the right, keep your face towards the floor and take your head to the right. So don't turn your head. So same side as you're shifting your pelvis. And now continue, but keep your head in the middle. And some of you have already had enough and you're resting, and that is a really good thing to do for yourself. Excellent. And do the third possibility, which is to take the head in the opposite direction to which you're shifting your pelvis. Great. Stop and rest. Great. Roll yourself over, come up to sitting, and could I demonstrate with you? Could you please come over here and let's have a look at something. Could you come onto all fours? I'm not sure, whose umbrella is this? I have to ask to borrow it. Anybody on this one? Oh, it's mine. Okay. So, could you start, just have whichever foot you like to have on top and start to shift your pelvis left and right. That's it. So remember the idea of the spine as a stick? So if we lie the umbrella here, and if you take your head opposite your pelvis, now your spine is definitely not a stick. Can you see that? So the neck is moving independently, a little bit independently. There's more curvature in the neck. Now, go left and right and keep your head in one piece with the rest of you. That's it. Getting closer. Yeah. Good. Now come to the middle.
I actually felt like I was already doing that.
Oh.
I thought I was being sticky.
And now, could you take the head and the pelvis left and right in the same direction? Yeah. Can you see the spine is not a stick? Great. Now come back. Now spine is a stick. Oh, no. Yeah. So then, how does that become possible? Yeah, stop in the middle. How does it become possible to take both this way and that way? This way and that way. And now go back to the other way you were doing it.
That was a cognitive failure.
If you want to label it like that.
It's actually got a gorgeous one. Like,
some did.
I was rotating my head. It was actually thinking my nose.
Now go back to taking your pelvis and your head in the same direction, but allowing your spine to curve. There we go. Solution, yes?
This way is really, that's really comforting.
It's comforting, yeah.
It's like elephant sway.
Yeah. It's an older pattern, definitely older, yeah. Less complex in the brain, so yes, it's a bit soothing. Yeah, well, this is a solution to the instruction. This is one solution. There's multiple solutions. It's not a one-to-one mapping. Yeah. And I go back to taking pelvis and head opposite. There we go. There we go. There we go. And now let your spine be bendy as you like it to be.
Sure that I like it.
So that's actually a really, it's a really appropriate thing to say. So we're all like that. You know, we have a little groove that we move in, and we've got little, valences on either side. We can do a little bit more of that, a little bit more of that. But when you're presented with several different options that are usually not in your repertoire, when it comes back, when you return to doing what you usually do, it's a little bit, I'm not sure whether I like it so much anymore. And some people actually forget what they used to do. That happens. You ask them to do it again, it's like, I can't know, what did I do? Yep. Now, navigating your way through that is a really tricky business. It requires a lot of attention. Oh, now spine stick, now spine not stick. Now bending, now not bending. Lots of permutations there. So that in itself could be the lesson. Just that. Plus head turning, no head turning. Head hanging, not head hanging. Yep. Toes tucked, one foot on top, other foot on top. Knees together, knees apart. Oh, boom, boom, boom. Already one lesson. Thank you.
foot on top.
Come up onto all fours. Put one foot on top of the other. Go back. Make that simpler.
The distance between the knees.
Yep. Do you feel that in yourself, that that's the answer? Try to put
That's
one...
my logical answer.
Yeah, then try it out sensorially. Put both knees together. And now try to put one foot on the top. What's that feel like? Different to having the knees apart? Have the knees further apart. And now bring one foot on top of the other. Ah, now you're starting to move the other leg. Yeah, there we go. Yeah? So, if a person, you really started to move the right leg to the left, and then there's a critical distance. If the knees are apart, it's like, oh, wow, I've got to get a lot of rotation in that hip. Suddenly you decide to move both legs. Okay, so now we're into, that could be a whole lesson in itself. Aye. So where do you stop breaking things down? The answer is, you don't. You can keep breaking things down as long as your interest and enthusiasm is the same. You can just keep on exploring, keep on exploring, keep on exploring. And that kind of question can be logically answered or answered in your sensation. So, yes. It's an asymmetrical position, so somehow your brain's going to register something differently, supposedly. But also, because one foot's resting on top of the other, what happens to the other ankle? And what happens to the ankle that's resting? Even the ankles start to work differently.
Is that the thing that's like what the brain likes is little variations?
I don't know. I guess so. I'm only answering from my own personal experience. I don't like big changes all at once. I prefer little changes. Yeah. Okay, so go back to being on all fours.
Can I do this over chair?
Yeah, but you'd probably be more comfortable if you grabbed a table and leaned on the table, because that's a bit narrow. Thank you for whoever's umbrella this is. Yeah, go back to all fours, rest one foot on top of the other. And now that you have a visual impression of some of the possibilities, go ahead and explore those just for a few moments for yourself. So head in the same direction, head in opposite direction, head in the middle, spine as a stick, spine as flexible. Have a taste. And ideally speaking, it would be useful to have all of those options in your back pocket, because you never know what life is going to throw at you. And if you can have all the options just in there in your back pocket, then the right option can come out at the right time, rather than a fixed response. One response for every change. Oh, yeah. It's a bit stuck. Great. Have a little bit of a rest, please. So have in the foreground of your attention this attitude of creating a state that is pleasing. Which doesn't necessarily mean self-indulgent. It's just that, I feel pleased with myself lying here. This feels pleasant. It creates that sense of, comfort, well-being. It's good. And then carry that over into a new orientation and a new configuration. Come up onto your hands and knees. And now have the knees apart, but not too far, and have the feet apart, but not too far. Some distance where you can wiggle your bum left and right easily. Yeah? Great. Now, attend to, become aware of your right foot and start to make a movement with yourself so that the toes of the right foot point more to the right and the back of the heel of the right foot points more to the left. Yep. Start to make a movement where you experience the toes of the right foot pointing more to the right and the heel of the right foot pointing more to the left. Yeah, so toes point right, heel points left. And the toes themselves will need to slide on the floor a little bit for that to happen. Because if you try to lift the toes from the floor, it gets a little bit kind of hard. Notice, when you do that, are you trying to keep your pelvis still? Or do you let your pelvis move? Rest as you wish. Come back to it as you wish. Whatever it takes for you to keep generating this sense of it being an interesting exploration, a pleasant thing. If you start to feel confused, notice at what moment does confusion turn into frustration? And confused, frustrated confusion is not necessarily a good thing. Confusion in itself, without the feeling of frustration, that is a good thing. Got to go through the door of confusion to find out something new. Great. Explore the same thing with the left foot. So leave the right foot alone, explore the same thing with the left foot. Now, some of you are actually starting to take the shin further out to the left as you do that. There was nothing said that said you couldn't do it, so please, if you're doing that, feel absolutely free to do that. And some of you might want to experiment with that too. Does it make a difference if you move the shin to the left as you make that movement with your foot? Can that be part of the composition? That's it. And I guess if you were trying to describe the movement of the left hip joint, it would be an internal rotation. And if you were describing the movement of the pelvis, the tailbone would be pointing more to the left. Now alternate, once with the right, once with the left, once with the right, once with the left. and check it out. No self-deception. Are the toes pointing more to the outside as the heel points more to the midline? That's it. Right, stop and rest, please. So earlier on I said that some people really like struggle, some people really like effort. And the particular instance that comes to mind was this dancer that was involved in a research project that we were doing at university, where we were combining this kind of work with actual dance training, so that they weren't separated. One day you do one thing, next day you do another. No, both things were happening inside the dance class. You have a little taste of a somatic experience and you immediately inject it into the next thing that they do in dance class. And it had great outcomes. A lot of the students were writing journals. This was part of our qualitative kind of research. And then one of the students wrote in her journal, I'm not going to participate in this project anymore because I feel like I'm not improving. It just so happened that this same student had improved out of sight. From an external perspective, she'd improved heaps. But from an internal point of view, she felt like she wasn't getting better. And the reason she wasn't feeling better, and this is what she told us when we interviewed her, because she wasn't feeling any effort. And she gauged her improvement by the feeling of effort. If she was efforting, she knew she was working, therefore she must be getting better. Take away the feeling of effort, I'm not working, I can't be getting better. So her own belief stood in the way of her perceiving her improvement. Come up onto all fours again with that attitude, eudaimonia, wanting to flourish. Now, start to slide your right foot around more to the right in an arc, as if you wanted to bring the right foot as far away from yourself sideways as you could. And look for that moment when your leg is out to the right and you're resting on the big toe side edge of the foot. And the knee can be completely off the floor. That's it. Somebody asked me at the beginning of this lesson, do we need mats? So at this point, this is where mats can get in the way if they've got a lot of bumps in them. Because it makes it hard to slide the foot if you encounter little bumps and dips and catches and all sorts of things. So being on a nice flat carpet, something under your knees works really well. Now notice, as you take your foot around to the right like that, where do you rest your weight? Have you taken your pelvis to the left? If you haven't taken your pelvis to the left, that means you must be supporting some sort of weight through that right leg. And a leg that's bearing weight is not going to be as free to move. So find out where can you take your pelvis, where can you take your head to really liberate. Vive la libération, no? To liberate that right leg. Not to stand the foot on the floor. That's a different lesson. Yeah, just to have the edge on the floor, like that. That's it. Yeah, out to the side. Yeah, that's it. Great. Now explore the same thing to the other side with the other leg. And this is where your experimentation can blossom. Yeah. You can experiment taking your pelvis one way, your head the other way, having a stick for a spine, not a stick for a spine, until you find the way where the leg feels light and it's kind of liberated from any sensation of getting stuck. That's it. You see, I watch you and I get ideas. Yep, good. Please continue leaning on your elbows and forearms. That's good. Yeah, see what that's like. For some of you, it'll actually be easier. I don't know why, but... So when you're leaning on your elbows and forearms, now the bum is higher up in the air and the head is lower down. Does this make it easier for some of you? Now try it once to the left, once to the right. Alternate sides, one and the other. And if you've now had a taste of being on your elbows, and you think to yourself, well, you know, this is not quite where I'm ready for yet, come up back onto your hands. Include that. Yeah, so you can stay on your elbows or you can be up on your hands. Yeah, and some of you are actually turning your head. That's good. You can actually count your toes. Yes, they're still there. I haven't worn them out on the floor yet, on the carpet. Great. Please stop and rest.
You can look how far they go and you can improve your self-image.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Now, in the evenings, in the mornings, I wondered to myself, okay, are there some ideas that I can talk about? And one of the ideas was proprioception. But I thought this one was more important this morning, eudaimonia. But if you have no allegiance to a discipline, yeah, if I don't have any allegiance to neuroscience or neurophysiology, then I'm free to interpret proprioception as I wish. I can go back to the Italian roots. And we have an Italian speaker here. So proprio, what is proprio?
Proprio.
Noun.
It depends on the context, but proprio means that belongs to itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the sensations that belong to you. Your sensations. So from a generalist point of view, proprioception are any sensations that inform you about yourself. Vision is proprioceptive. Yeah, because you can see your own foot. Sound is proprioceptive because not only do you know where the sound's coming from, but it also locates you in space. Taste can be proprioceptive. Because as soon as you put food in the mouth, it gives you a sense of the mouth itself. So a lot of sensations, actually all of the sensations, are proprioceptive. But of course, in neurophysiology, that's not how proprioception is defined. And this is where allegiances get in the way of having a different understanding of something. So yeah, in awareness through movement, vision can be a useful thing to enhance your self-image. So why not use it? Because it's still proprioception. So now you know why Feldenkrais liked that t-shirt, I am a quack. Because if you wear a t-shirt that says I am a quack, you have no allegiance to any discipline. The only allegiance that you have is to yourself and your client. Please come up to hands and knees. Thanks for the observation. Simultaneously, take the toes sideways away from the midline as you take the heels towards each other, towards the midline. That's it. And let the legs move as they need to move. So if you need to take the lower legs further apart, you take the lower legs further apart. If you need to let the spine arch or bend, you let the spine arch or bend. If you need to take your bottom closer to your heels, you take it closer to your heels. Further from your heels, take it further from your heels. Do whatever you feel internally, proprioceptively, is appropriate for you to feel that it's easier and easier to slide the feet so that the toes point away from the midline and the heels point towards the midline, towards each other. Now please, take the feet, position them so that the toes are out and the heels are in, but only go to that place where you feel an absence of strain, no strain. And then from here, start to take your bottom backwards as if you wanted to sit on the floor. And then return, just that. And if you start from a place where there is no strain, notice when the sensation of strain begins to appear. And you've just encountered the boundary. Yes, the edge of the universe. You've just encountered it. I don't mind the laugh, that's great. So now you know where the edge of the universe is, but don't stop nudging. But also don't try to push through. And what you can be continuously monitoring is it easier this time if I go a little bit in this direction? Is it a little bit easier if I round my spine? Is it a little easier if I arch my spine? Is it a little easier if I let go of my neck and let it be free? Is it a little easier if I don't push my toes into the floor? So you're always monitoring, has that boundary shifted? Have I expanded my field of well-being? Instead of being just a small little field, I only feel well in this particular field, the field grows. and you feel well and pleasant and comfortable within a larger field of activity. For some of you, you're able to go so far back, you just walk your hands backwards until you're sitting on the floor between your feet. That's it, that's it, that's it. Use your hands for support. Remember, you can use your hands for support. That's it. Nice. Because if your hands are there for support, that means there's a part of you that knows, I'm still secure. I'm still secure. Fantastic. Let that be in rest, please. Notice how you experience yourself doing a lesson, being mindful of that kind of an attitude. In other words, continuously directing your attention, reminding yourself, yes, I'm trying to cultivate something here. I'm trying to generate something, a sense of pleasantness inside myself, a direction, an aim towards internal satisfaction, happiness, flourishing, whatever you want to call it. Eudaimonia. Is it different when you do a lesson with that flavor in mind? Does it create a different experience of yourself? In your own time, roll to one side, come up to stand, feel what it's like, walk a little bit, and when you've finished scanning yourself, please go into a break, and we'll come back at 10 past. So time for yourself. Take the time that you need to experience yourself, and then off you go into a break.